I'm David Stratton, and the end of the year is always a great time to look back at some of the films released in Australia over the past 12 months, and to pick my top 10 for 2016. I thought I'd pick the films in the order they were released in cinemas. So first, Carol. This elegant emotional drama from director Todd Haynes is set in the 1950s and contains two of the year's great performances, Cate Blanchett and Rooney Mara, as two women from different social backgrounds who are drawn to one another after their brief encounter in a New York department store. The film exudes a noirish glamour with glorious photography and production and costume design. And it's a film that conveys so much without needing to spell out every detail.
Thank you. Oh, God, don't. I look fried.
You do not. You look wonderful. Just stay like that.
Do you miss Richard?
No, I haven't thought about him all day.
Spotlight, the Oscar winner for Best Film. This is a true story of investigative journalism in the great tradition of All the President's Men. From their base at the prestigious Boston Globe newspaper, a handful of dedicated journalists pursued the horrific story of the abuses of pedophile priests, facing opposition every step of the way, but leading the world in the exposure of these crimes.
Don't do this.
Tom McCarthy's measured direction and the ensemble performances of a cast that includes Mark Ruffalo, Michael Keaton, Rachel McAdams, and Liev Schreiber made this a totally gripping experience.
We need to focus on the institution, not the individual priests. Practice and policy. Show me the church manipulated the system so that these guys wouldn't have to face charges. Show me they put those same priests back into parishes time and time again. Show me this was systemic, that it came from the top down.
Sounds like we're going after law.
Anomalisa, this amazing film by Charlie Kaufman and animator Duke Johnson, takes us into the world of Michael David Thewlis, a British-born American self-help expert who on a 24-hour trip to Cincinnati undergoes a midlife crisis. In David's world, everyone literally speaks with the same voice until he encounters Lisa, Jennifer Jason Leigh. This totally original work is both painful and funny and way out there. The Daughter is the first feature made by Australian stage director Simon Stone, and it's a heartbreakingly fine adaptation of Ibsen's The Wild Duck, with the action transposed from Norway to New South Wales. It's a family drama that involves a wealthy businessman, Geoffrey Rush, whose timber mill, source of much local employment, is closing down. He's about to remarry, and this event reopens old wounds involving his former partner, Sam Neill, and the latter's son, Ewan Leslie, and his beloved granddaughter, played by the talented newcomer, Odessa Young. A film in which dark secrets are exposed and simmering dramas erupt. This is impeccably performed and cinematically outstanding. Porno. In a solid year for Australian films, I could also mention Jen Peedham's exceptional documentary, Sherpa. Porno is a no-budget Melbourne-made drama, and it stood out. It's set over a 24-hour period in and around a pawn shop in the Melbourne suburb of Footscray, where Les, John Brumpton, and his assistant Danny, screenwriter Damien Hill, interact with a cross-section of humanity. This is one of those authentic slice-of-life films that connect beautifully with reality. It had a very limited release, but it's a terrific little movie. Sully. Clint Eastwood, now in his early 80s, has made another impeccably crafted film about the nature of heroism, with Tom Hanks convincingly portraying the real-life character of Chesley Sullenberger, the experienced pilot who in January 2009 piloted a passenger plane into New York's Hudson River when both engines failed soon after takeoff. Eastwood's take on this inspirational story is to focus on the inquiry that followed, in which attempts were made to denigrate the actions of the hero whose split-second decisions saved the lives of all on board. Sully is classical cinema at its very best.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Cactus 1549. Hit birds. We've lost thrust on both engines. We are turning back towards the LaGuardia.
Which engine did you lose?
Both engines.
Ignition.
Ignition.
Thrust levers confirm idle.
Idle.
Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low. Terrain.
This is the captain. Brace for impact.
L. It wasn't an especially great year for foreign language films. Fewer seemed to be released outside the various national film festivals. But Paul Verhoeven's L stood out above the crowd for its challenging portrait of a woman beautifully played by Isabelle Huppert in the aftermath of a brutal rape in her home. One of the cinema's most durable provocateurs, Verhoeven proved he had lost none of his biting wit with this dark, impressive film. Nocturnal Animals, the long-awaited second feature from designer-turned-filmmaker Tom Ford, lived up to the promise of A Simple Man. The richly complex story, which unfolds on 3 levels, stars Amy Adams as an unhappy wife who receives the draft of a book written by her first husband, Jake Gyllenhaal. The film visualizes the disturbing content of the novel, as well as exploring the couple's past. It's beautifully structured and realized by Ford, and there are wonderful performances from the lead actors, especially Amy Adams, who's also great, by the way, in the outstanding sci-fi drama Arrival.
Did you love him?
Yeah, I loved him. He was a writer, and I didn't have faith in him. I panicked and I did something horrible to him, something unforgivable, really.
You left him?
I left him. I left him in a brutal way.
I, Daniel Blake. Like Clint Eastwood, British director Ken Loach is in his 80s now, but his skills as a filmmaker are undiminished. His latest, which won the coveted Palme d'Or in Cannes this year, deals with unemployment and the labyrinthine world of the welfare system in the city of Newcastle-on-Tyne, and stars British comedian Dave Johns as a working-class hero fighting the system. This is truly inspirational stuff. La La Land. Finally, a musical. Who would have thought that Hollywood, increasingly moribund with dreary remakes, sequels, crude so-called comedies, and yet more superhero extravaganzas, would come up with something as deliciously delightful as this. The staging of the spectacular opening sequence alone is worth the price of admission, but Damien Chazelle's affectionate and cinematically literate nostalgia piece, with the lovers, Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, singing and dancing through their relationship, is, along with the Kiwi delight Hunt for the Wilder People, the feel-good movie of the year.
You're fired.
It's Christmas.
Yeah, I see the decorations. Good luck in the new year.
So those are my top 10 movies of 2016. There were other good ones and an awful lot of bad ones, but those are the ones that will stay with me. Let's hope 2017 offers as many, if not more, treats. There are already a few enticing ones on the horizon. But let me leave you with a sneak preview of my forthcoming 3-part series for the ABC, David Stratton's Stories of Australian Cinema. It was an intensely personal and nostalgic journey for me, returning to see all those extraordinary Australian films again, and I hope you'll enjoy watching it with me. See you next year. Film has the power to change lives. I know, because it changed mine.
We are pre-wired as humans to be fundamentally interested in the experience of other humans.
Telling stories about ourselves matters.
It's through stories that we make the world comprehensible to ourselves.
And that's why we keep doing it.
It's the right of any people to see their culture reflected back to them.
Miranda!
These are the stories of the films that changed the way the world saw us.
Probably saw you around.
And how we saw ourselves.
War changes men's natures.
The films that revolutionized the Australian film industry. The game changers.
I want to be a writer.
This is your family!
A story of how the films and those who made them broke through the status quo.